There is a sentence sitting inside a 2021 interview that nobody in Formula One is saying out loud this week. They are talking about talent drains and championship implications and Red Bull's crisis and what this means for the standings. But they are not quoting the one line that changes everything. The one line that transforms today's news from a personnel story into something far more significant. Max Verstappen, at the peak of his power, having just won his first Formula One World Championship, sat down with Ziggo Sport and said this: "I told him that I only want to work with him. As soon as he stops, I stop too." He was talking about Gianpiero Lambiase, his race engineer, his partner through 4 titles and 71 victories, the man who, as of today, April 9th, 2026, has officially signed a contract to leave Red Bull Racing and join McLaren. A promise made at the summit of the sport has just become the most dangerous sentence in Formula One. Here's what everyone is missing. Before we go further, let's understand who Gianpiero Lambiase actually is, because the coverage often reduces him to Verstappen's race engineer and leaves it there. That description is accurate but radically insufficient. Lambiase, born in Bedford to Italian parents and known universally in the paddock as GP, started his Formula One career in 2005 with Jordan. He spent 11 years working his way through the team's various identities: Midland, Spiker, Force India, before joining Red Bull in 2015. When Max Verstappen arrived at Red Bull the following year, replacing Daniel Kvyat in the most dramatic mid-season promotion in modern F1 history, Lambiase became his engineer. They won at the 2016 Spanish Grand Prix on Verstappen's debut. Max was 18 years old, and the partnership that would define an era of Formula One had just begun. Over the next decade, what Verstappen and Lambiase built together went far beyond a driver and an engineer finding their rhythm. The Red Bull race engineer is the voice the driver hears from the moment the car leaves the garage to the moment it returns. He manages the tyres, the fuel load, the pace targets, the race strategy, the safety car calls, the headspace. On the fastest, most technically complex machines ever built in the most competitive sporting environment on Earth, the race engineer is the one constant human presence a driver has. And Lambiase, by every account from everyone who has watched them work, was exceptional at this in a way that even exceptional race engineers rarely are. Former Red Bull principal Christian Horner once described them as an old married couple. Helmut Marko, upon hearing the news today, called it a significant loss and was quick to point out that Lambiase's influence went far beyond navigating Verstappen's on-track activities, that he was a key figure in car development and setup, who also went his own way, not always in agreement with the rest of the technical crew. That last detail is important. Lambiase was not just executing a plan, he was shaping it. But here's the real problem. Because here is what today's news means in context. And the context is everything. Think about what Verstappen's world inside Red Bull looked like when he said, "As soon as he stops, I stop too," in late 2021. Down at that point, the team around him was immovable. Horner was in the team principal's office. Marko was the advisor who had backed him since adolescence, the man Verstappen once described as someone he would not stay at Red Bull without. A statement he had to walk back under intense political pressure in 2024. Adrian Newey, perhaps the greatest designer in the history of the sport, was still conceiving the machines that gave Verstappen his wings. Jonathan Wheatley ran the sporting operations. Lambiase was on the pit wall. These 5 men in 5 different roles formed something that was greater than a team. They formed a world, a closed, winning, protective world in which Max Verstappen could focus on doing the one thing he does better than anyone alive: driving a Formula One car as fast as it will go. I cannot see myself without GP on my side as an engineer. Now count them. Horner, gone, sacked in July 2025. Newey, gone, now designing for Aston Martin. Marko, gone, retired at the end of 2025. Wheatley, gone, became team principal at Audi. And now, effective end of 2027, when his contract expires, Lambiase, gone. To McLaren, to join Rob Marshall, who was already there, to join Will Courtney, who started as McLaren's sporting director this year. 3 of the people who made Red Bull's dominant era are now gathering at McLaren, the team that won back-to-back Constructors' Championships in 2024 and 2025, the team that took the driver's title from Verstappen himself by 2 points last year. That is not coincidence. That is a story in itself. McLaren is not just winning on the track. It is dismantling Red Bull's brain trust, and one departure at a time, and reassembling it in papaya. And the man being left behind at a team that now barely resembles the one he joined a decade ago is the four-time world champion currently sitting 9th in the standings, 60 points from the lead, telling anyone who will listen that he hates driving the car. That matters more than it sounds. So let us ask the question that the entire paddock is now quietly asking. Did Verstappen know? There are reports suggesting he was aware of McLaren's interest in Lambiase for some time. GP Blog reported that Verstappen did not see the departure as coming completely out of nowhere and that he supports Lambiase's move, understanding the appeal of the promotion and the financial package on offer. And that is exactly the kind of thing a mature, mod-composed champion says publicly when the person he once promised to quit Formula One decides it is time to move on. Whether it is what he actually feels is a different matter. Because Verstappen, for all his unfiltered directness in press conferences, is also a man who has spent his adult life learning to separate what he feels from what he says. And what he feels, by every account from every person close to him right now, is that his Formula One world is collapsing around him in slow motion, piece by piece, person by person, and he has run out of people to catch it. Subscribe now. Think about what the role of a race engineer actually means in the context of what Verstappen is going through right now, because this is not normal. The 2026 regulations have produced the most disorienting shift in the feel of a Formula One car in modern history. The power units now split their output almost evenly between combustion and electrical energy, which means the driver is not just managing tyres or fuel anymore, he is managing a battery. He is making constant decisions about when to harvest energy and when to deploy it, decisions that used to be automatic, pure throttle response, pure mechanical feel, but are now strategic, calculated, managed. Verstappen has described this as anti-racing. He called it Formula E on steroids at the first media session of the year. After Japan, he told the BBC that the way he was forcing himself to commit to F1 was not very healthy. These are not the words of a driver complaining about a slow car. And these are the words of a man whose relationship with driving has been fundamentally disrupted, who is searching for something familiar to hold onto in a sport that no longer feels like the one he fell in love with. And the one truly familiar thing left, the voice in his earpiece through every championship, every battle, every moment of triumph and frustration for 10 years, is now heading to the enemy. Now watch this shift in perspective. Let's put this in historical context because the sport has seen this kind of unraveling before. When Michael Schumacher and Ross Brawn were separated after Ferrari's dominant era, Schumacher's comeback at Mercedes produced a driver who looked diminished, uncertain, searching for something the new environment could never replicate. When Lewis Hamilton and his engineering team were at their peak through the 7-title era, the prospect of losing Bono, his race engineer Peter Bonington, was treated with genuine concern inside the team because some partnerships transcend their technical description. They become a language. They become a shared grammar for processing pressure. Verstappen and Lambiase had that. And it is now confirmed that in 2028, at the latest, they will no longer speak that language together from opposite ends of a radio channel. For a driver who has said repeatedly that he does not plan a long Formula One career, who is already competing at the Nürburgring and planning a Le Mans program in his spare time, who told the BBC after Japan that he was considering walking away, 2028 is not a distant horizon. It is a deadline. And 2026 increasingly looks like the year everything accelerates toward it. There is a detail in the Lambiase story that nobody is reporting properly, and it is the detail that matters most. According to ESPN sources, the general feeling inside and outside of Red Bull on Thursday, the day the confirmation dropped, was unanimous. Lambiase's move, even though it does not begin until the end of 2027, could be the final nail in the coffin in Red Bull's chances of convincing Verstappen to ride out his frustration and keep racing beyond 2026. Not because of the departure itself, but because of what it signals about the state of the team from the inside. Red Bull's official statement was dutiful and professional. GP is a valued member of the team. Until his planned departure, he continues in his roles as head of racing and race engineer to Max Verstappen. The team and he are fully committed to add more success to our strong track record together. That is what you say when you have lost and cannot show it. That is the language of managed transition. Lambiase himself has said in the past, "The day Max and I stop working together in this setup will be the day I'm keen to take on a new challenge." Today he took on a new challenge. Whatever interpretation you place on that sentence, it does not read like a ringing endorsement of the future. The confirmation of Lambiase's move could be the final nail in the coffin in Red Bull's chances of convincing Verstappen to keep racing beyond 2026. And this is where it gets irreversible. Because here is the impossible mathematics of Max Verstappen's 2026. He hates the regulations. His car is 9th in the championship. His team has lost Newey, Horner, Marco, Wheatley, Marshall, Courtney, his chief mechanic, his front-end mechanic, his control engineer, his engine engineer, and multiple senior staffers in the past 18 months. The new team principal is a respected figure, but not the man who was there for every championship. The technical director is rebuilding without Newey's genius as a compass. The wind tunnel they use for development was described by Horner himself as a Cold War relic, over 70 years old, only now being replaced. And the one person who has been through all of it with Verstappen, who heard every moment of frustration and celebration on that radio, who has the institutional knowledge and the personal trust of the driver that no replacement can manufacture overnight, has just signed to leave. Now add to all of this the fact that Verstappen has a reported performance-based exit clause in his contract, that he is currently sitting 9th in the standings 60 points off the lead, and that his own words from 5 years ago are now being recycled by every journalist in the sport as evidence of what comes next. The math does not add up to staying, and yet, and this is the part that makes this story genuinely unresolved, nothing is confirmed. Verstappen has not announced his retirement. Red Bull has not confirmed a departure. Lambiase does not leave until the end of 2027. There are still races to run before Miami, and Miami before Monaco, and an entire season in which Red Bull could find performance, or the FIA could modify the energy split in the regulations to make the cars feel more like what Verstappen wants, or something unexpected could shift the calculus entirely. The sport has surprised us before. Verstappen himself has surprised us before. He committed to Red Bull when the whole paddock expected him to go to Mercedes. He came back from a bruising 2025 title defeat with every sign of wanting a 5th championship. He is, above all else, a racer, and racers do not always follow the logic of the evidence. Sometimes they follow something deeper, something less rational, something that has to do with pride and refusal and the stubborn belief that they can fix what is broken if they just get back in the car. But here's the question nobody can answer. Can you fix a broken world by staying inside it? Verstappen's 2026 is not just about a car that is too slow or regulations that feel wrong. It is about a team that no longer resembles the one he built his career inside. It is about an environment that has been hollowed out of the people who understood him, challenged him, protected him, and made him the driver he is. And now, the last of them, the voice in his ear, the man he promised to follow out the door, is leaving. The 2021 version of Max Verstappen made a promise in the euphoria of a first championship that was beautiful in its simplicity. It was the kind of thing you say when the future looks infinite and everything you need is right there in front of you. That version of Verstappen could not have imagined this version of 2026. So it could not have imagined a Red Bull without Horner, without Newey, without Marco, without Lambiase. Could not have imagined sitting 9th in the standings, calling the car he drives an insult to racing, while the people he trusted most exit one by one for the team that beat him last year. But that is exactly where we are. And his words from 2021, casual, loyal, unguarded, are now being weighed against the entire future of the most dominant driver in modern Formula One. As soon as he stops, I stop too. Lambiase hasn't stopped yet, but in 2028 he will, and the clock is already running. Do you think Verstappen follows through on his promise? Drop your answer in the comments. Yes, he leaves, or no, he stays. And if you think this is the biggest off-track story in Formula One right now, I'd just hit the like button and subscribe, because the next chapter of this is already being written in Miami, and you are going to want to be here for it.